Live. Here we are. You know that I immediately remember once I was hosting a conference. Actually, it was in Kiev. So it's like an interesting connection that I just did, and was a speaker that I had to introduce. I was like the MC. And I said, and now a big round of applause for Matt. And everyone looked at me weird, saying, Matt? Who is Matt? And everyone say Matt. But for me, that I'm Italian, Matt is the same. So I have a problem with names. So tell me, how do I say it correctly?
Matt, or that's totally fine. We have a lot of Italian friends at Satellite, and I would be lying if I said that I began to pronounce their names properly. So
I had a friend that after, I think, 1 year, I said, Jacob, how are you, Jacob? And then after 1 year, he said, man, my friend is Jacob. It's not Jacob, it's Jacob.
I kind of like Jacob.
So I'm so interested to talk with you because there is this topic about the new, let's say, Web3 tools, and everyone having a project into the Web3 world. For instance, we have an NFT, and we use a platform like Discord. And at the beginning, I said, oh, wow, cool, Discord, Web3 tool. But then you start to dig a bit and say, but what happened if they, shut down, freeze our account, and you say, well, it's not so, Web3 is not so decentralized. It's like a PHP bulletin. I don't know what was the name, the forum. You remember the old time forum?
Yeah.
So I think definitely there is a problem there. And what you do, guys, I think can help to improve the situation. But give me first the context of what are you focusing right now and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, we're trying to build a decentralized chat service, and a goal of ours kind of touches on the major concern of having things be shut down, and we kind of centered our development process around having no mandatory servers. So essentially, our platform runs. You could run it off a USB drive, you could run it off of IPFS, whatever. And once it's up, we can't shut it down. No one could shut it down. And that's kind of been a goal of ours since the beginning. So the only server we have is an optional signaling server. Other than that, it's totally in the user's control. And it really kind of gets away from that, what if this gets shut down? What if this ceases to exist? Even if we cease to exist as a company, satellite communities will continue to exist.
Wow.
And we totally built on top of Web3 and peer-to-peer tech. And I think a big focus of ours as well has been kind of trying to break through that Web3 mold of how do we do this in a way that is totally Web3 native, totally crypto native, but isn't something that you need to understand crypto to use the platform. And also that the quality remains the same, no shade thrown on other projects or anything like that, but frequently we sacrifice a lot for security and privacy. But we've kind of done a 180 with Satellite. We've been able to do 4K at 60 FPS video chat, actually from here in North Carolina all the way to Milan, with no packet loss or anything like that. So really that's been our goal, is just building something that is owned by the community.
That's really impressive, because one concern that I have, if I think about launching a startup, I launched several startups and small startups, but I thought, well, I could launch some kind of decentralized startup, but then I start to be worried about the speed, because I start to think, if it's decentralized, how fast can it go? Or if I have to patch something, we did a mistake, and every 2 seconds you do a mistake as a startup, then how do I change it if it's already written with blood in the blockchain? So I have all of this kind of concern. How do you solve this? Or is maybe my stupid concern because I'm ignorant about it?
No, it's a valid concern. And I think, that's one of the things where you kind of have these ledgers that you trust to push updates to the platform. That could be us. That could be someone in the community that forked our code. It could be essentially anyone. And you have to know who to trust to get those updates. So that's kind of the trade-off in crypto, right? Is because this application isn't living on an AWS server, we can't just push updates and then, someone goes to Satellite and then boom, all the updates are there. You're really kind of dependent on trusting, a certain group of people to push those updates. But the beauty of something like Git is you can, if you're technically savvy or if you have friends that are technically savvy, you can go in and dig into any part of our code base. It's all public, it's all open source. So really all we're doing is updating our Git repositories, and then we have different nodes that host the actual application.
I
So
see.
hopefully everything
So,
will be seamless.
got it. When you say that you have to trust some people to push the updates, you mean there are some nodes, and then you have to trust the fact that these nodes have enough reward or incentive to push the updates?
I think it's not necessarily like the traditional node like you would see on like a miner or something like that where they're incentivized. It's more just, someone can compile our application down and then host it on a Pinata pin or an IPFS or an Unstoppables domains, whatever. It's really just, and it's a thing with crypto inherently is that a lot of times there's a store of value on those applications. So you really just have to know, what authorities have your best interests at heart. And I think that's something that really, as a community, we need to take a shift into is making sure we're cognizant of our security and privacy, and kind of say, I'm not just going to go to any website that looks like Satellite and trust it. Let me check the domain. Let me check and make sure it's pulling from the right Git repository. And I think it's just a paradigm shift in people needing to be cognizant of their surroundings in the Web3 space.
Right. There is a massive issue in Discord at the moment. I'm just mentioning Discord because it's like the tool that every project use. And there is this scam issue with direct message, which is unreal, in my opinion. I mean, coming from Web 2, every day you have to say, don't use a feature, which is now common for basically you can't use Twitter direct messages if you have certain following, Instagram direct messaging. I mean, it's impossible to use this feature, but on Discord is, I would say, has reached a level of organized crime ability, which is unreal. I have some scams to my NFTs that I don't understand. If I've written, they are genius. They write so well, great stuff. I would hire them, but they are on the dark side of the force. So you can't use direct message, and you don't know what to do. I cannot, go to the police. How do I stop them? So you can only say to your users, look, turn off direct messages, but many users maybe are not aware and they got scammed ferociously. How do you think it's possible to solve this problem?
Yeah, I think this is something we've been thinking about, and we haven't come up with the exact solution yet, but we've kind of been toying around with the idea of relationship graphs. So if I know you and you know me, then we could say that, we share these two keys. We know these are our real addresses. We know that we are who we say we are. And we could kind of build on top of that and start building a graph of all these different people that we know and we trust. And instead of just opening DMs to everyone, you instead open your DMs to people in this relationship network. So, it's not just some random account that was created by a bot and, send some pretty message that looks very, legitimate. Instead, we can say, okay, well, this is a friend of a friend of a friend, and they've been vetted by 6 or 10 or 20 different people. And from that, we can build a trust network. So that's something we're kind of looking into. We're not there yet, but I think it's a very valid concern, and it's something that is rampant not only in Discord but YouTube and all social media. You see it on Twitter and everything as well. And frankly, it's something that, especially in the crypto space, I think it gives crypto a bad name. Because a lot of people's first interactions with crypto are through these scams, right? They go on Twitter, they check out some posts, and then it's, hey, it's me, Vitalik Buterin. I'm sending out like 10 ETH if you send me this ETH back. And it's just, it really puts a bad image for us. So it's something that's really important to us to try to solve. And I think that relationship graph can really help out in solving, cutting back a lot of those scam messages. Of course, someone can still get their account hacked and they can still, be compromised. But if we can cut that down by even 70%, it would be monumental compared to
monumental. Yeah. Also, because at the moment, the alternatives that I see are, okay, let's increase the level of verification. And there are some Discord servers that you need the MIT degree to enter, because the verification is impossible. You have to be Magnus Carlsen chess master to solve the puzzle. And 3 seconds to do 15 things simultaneously. So it's impossible like that. It has to be something that works. Let's do a step back, Matt. What's your background? Do you have like a coding background? Is a business background?
Yeah, I think much like yourself, I have a background in content creation that goes pretty far back. Actually, when I was around 13 or 14, I was working with a Minecraft hosting company who went on to create something called Beam Pro, which later was rebranded to Mixer and sold to Microsoft. And I didn't get anything from it because I was 13 and I was ignorant to
and it was no Web3 tokenized system, so
sure,
that's it.
sure. Web3 was, that was just a blip in the map at the time. So I was around that space for a long time and trying to find different ways to help these content creators, on my own platforms, on their platforms. Really, how do we get high fidelity audio without packet loss and without having to bring these people on and have them record a separate audio track on their computer and send it over and things like that. And that's kind of how Satellite was actually birthed, was from that background. Additionally, I spent some time in the crypto space working with exchanges like Shapeshift, helping them out with, I was actually on the Prism team, which was super beneficial. It was a blast to meet everyone there. And, it kind of shifted my interest in the tech space completely. I went from boring government work to the exact opposite, freedom fighting crypto work. So it was a huge shift, and I'm so glad it happened. And, I kind of try to mesh the two worlds together, and that's kind of how I ended up where I am today.
Fantastic. And what's the stage of Satellite at the moment? Where is it? Is like just to I'm thinking people that maybe are not aware of it. Is an MVP? You already got traction? What's the level of the development there?
Yeah, we recently closed our Series A, so we're well funded. We have a huge, awesome team. I think about half of our developers are actually from Italy, over in a group called Knobs, and they're excellent. Everyone's super passionate, and from that, we've built a MVP. You can actually go on and use the product for direct messaging, file sharing, and things like that. We're pushing towards an early access launch. That should be within the next 20 days or so. And that will feature everything but community servers. We're also working towards a minimal kind of Telegram-esque platform called Uplink. And essentially the goal of that is going to be a hyper secure platform with 4K video streaming, high fidelity audio, but stripping out most of the extra features, kind of targeting more of the audience that uses Facebook Messenger or something like that, something you can get your mom using or your older friends using, and they're not going to be confused. And really just taking
sort of WhatsApp, Web3 WhatsApp, something like that.
Exactly. And really with the goal of how do we get people interested in privacy and security without them even knowing that they're, using something that's hyper secure and hyper private. And that's hopefully going to launch in the next 3 months here. So we're making headway, and there's plenty of tools as well for developers to start building on our platform already. And really we're full steam ahead. So.
Oh, wow, impressive. And how many people is Satellite at the moment? What's the size of the company?
I would say about 37 employees. So we have, most of us are developers. We've really tried to stay developer focused at the company. We do have, our back office staff, but really most of the people we hired were people that were contributing open source or, became interested through like Gitcoin or something like that. Really, we just brought on people that were passionate about the space and that were equally interested in making this product. I don't think there's anyone at our company that treats it as like a daily job where they sign in and sign out and just, head out for the day. Everyone's here because they're super jazzed about Web3 and crypto and what we're building. So.
Got it. When you talk about security, help me to understand what's the level of security of like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Discord, Satellite. What's the difference there? Because for normal human beings, they more or less all the same. So what's the difference there? Why is it important? What has to change to make it more secure and so on?
Yeah, I think at a entry level, you have something that's very much not secure. And that is more for the Discords of the world, where you don't have end-to-end encrypted messages. You're sending everything up to their servers in plain text. So, if, a very common thing, for better or worse, is for people to send, hey, like, can I log into your Netflix, right? Or something like that. And they send the
Yeah.
password over plain
Yeah.
text. And then now your password is available to everyone, if Discord servers are compromised. So that's like the very, very, horrible level of security. You have applications that include end-to-end encryption, but it's still going up to their central servers. So although they can't read your messages, they still know exactly who you're talking to. You can be sort of pinned down as a marketing number. You could start targeting ads to certain demographics and groups. And we've taken it to the most extreme, where we're end-to-end encrypted across the board, but the messages never go to any of our servers. The messages go straight from one user to another user, or they go straight from one user to the chain, and they're encrypted on the chain. Nobody could ever read those messages except for the recipient, the intended recipient of those messages. So
Right.
that's really the ultimate goal, is to make it so no matter what happens, even if the data is leaked, it doesn't matter. And with the blockchain, it's inherently public in a lot of regards. So, we've kind of been forced to make sure that our stuff is hyper secure, because a lot of that stuff is publicly accessible. So it's really just a matter of taking every step of the process and saying, how do we make total ownership of this data in the user's hands? And how do we
Right.
make sure that that user doesn't have to think about how to secure their data? It's just something that happens inherently with using the application.
I see. I am super interested in security, decentralization, ownership, most of all. I've worked for 9 years now on several social media platforms, and I don't own shit, basically. So that's incredible. So I have a large community, and I have someone in between that decide, okay, you get this reach, or maybe we freeze your account because we hate bald people starting tomorrow. I don't know. So anything can happen. But I have good intentions. So I just want to have a relationship with my community, and I'm happy to pay, but I don't want to be, shut down or intermediate, basically. The problem that I see in the discussion about these topics is every time that someone say, yes, but what about bad actors? Because bad actors will come and say, all right, good. How do you stop like a Discord full of bad actors? Well, they can shut down the server, and they can freeze those accounts, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. What happened with decentralized, let's say, social networks, decentralized messaging system? How do you approach this kind of problem?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and it's really, a political belief issue, and kind of an opinionated thing. But this is my personal opinion. Is There's a reason we don't live in glass houses, right? I could be doing something, that the government or someone might think is bad in my house, but that doesn't mean that there should be cameras in my house just in case I am, right?
Yeah.
Likely I'm not. I'm just a normal citizen. I'm just going about my day. That doesn't mean I should have to forgo my privacy just because I might be doing something nefarious. However, there is something that we've been thinking about, and it's kind of, it's one of those things we really need to spend a lot of time on, because I think it is a touchy subject. But we've been thinking about allowing people to opt into our own kind of ban network. So essentially, Satellite and a bunch of other community members can come together and build a network of things that say, hey, this group is specifically a hate group. That's all they do, is that, they spread hate, and they're a terrible community. So I personally would not like to see their content. So they can turn on this content filter and allow us as Satellite to say, hey, we haven't found anything really worthwhile in here. This is just, a bad group to be a part of, in our personal opinion. You could turn on our filtering, and we'll get that server out of there. But at the same way, in the same way, that kind of goes into the Discord thing of, if we're the ones that decide what is a bad actor, that could cause problems in the future. So it's important that this is something that people can opt out of, or they can change to a different, registry to choose what may be bad actors, or disable it completely. It's really a tough subject, right? And it's something that we're going to spend a lot of time on. And I think outside of just messaging, the Web3 space entirely. It's something that we have to think about as a community of how do we control this data? Do we even want to control this data? Do we want to allow it to be completely open and see what happens? Do we want to trust certain authorities to be the ones to shut things down? It's really something I think as a community, not just inside of Satellite, we need to kind of think about. And perhaps there's a protocol layer that could exist there, or it's just something I think a lot of thought needs to be put into, because it really is like the overarching problem in crypto, right? It's what everyone thinks about, like when you talk about crypto.